Alright, so the next step for these guys is the veining. So I have modified a paintbrush. This started out to be probably about this size, and I have trimmed it down to be just a tiny few hairs so that it doesn't cause such humongous thick veins. I've been using the same paintbrush for probably the entire time I've been reborning, coming over about 8.5 years now. I start with the heads, and on the heads I have multiple spots that I go through. I will start right behind the ear. You don't want it to be straight ever, and you don't want it to be thick and dark. So if you can see it too darkly, then it's probably going to be sticking out like a sore thumb, and you're going to probably want to undo it. And I'm going to take my paintbrush and gently tap it, and this helps to blur the edges and sink it just till it looks below the skin tone. I don't know if you can see that with the light. This is probably not dark enough, so I'm going to cover over this a little bit more because I actually want to see these. It's important to gently tap them and not try to wipe them off. If you use a sponge for this, it's going to wipe them right off and it's going to make them completely disappear. So we're going to do a similar on each side of the head with a couple coming down the temple, and then we're going to go back and branch off and have some come down over into the eye area. Again, we're going to tap it so that they blur in. This will help them to sink so that they look below the surface and not just sitting right on top of it. You never, never, never want straight lines on your veins, and you don't want them to look sharp because that looks like you've drawn them with a Sharpie right on the top. And then down between the eyes, you can put it on one side of the nose or the other, but in general I rotate it through one side of the face to the other. Alright, so now I'm going to flip the head around. I'm going to start playing connect the dots. And over here, there's a big empty spot, so we're going to fill it up with something. Your head is one of the most veiny places on your body. Lots of blood flow. And I don't have a set pattern, they all look different, but this one is going to come up right here as one of the jugular veins, right up under the chin, or beside the chin. It's probably in the wrong spot, the jugular vein's usually right through here, but that's where it's going to go on this baby. And we're going to blend this in before it sets too hard and too long. You can see the veins are just barely there. You can see them, but they're not so bright that they look crazy bright. Alright, so I'm going to come to this side and give you another jugular vein on this side and create a little bit of veins coming up to the chin area and up to the ear. Alright, this little face is done. Alright, so now we're going to go on to the limbs. On the inside of the leg, it's about halfway between the knee and the ankle, we're going to start a vein, and it's going to shoot down behind the ankle bone and then across the front of the ankle bone. Some of these little veins are going to come down under the foot. Yeah, I want to be able to see this, so you kind of keep adding paint until you can see it. My paint is a little thin, and then we're going to gently tap that in so it stays there and disappears below the surface. We're going to flip it over. We're going to do the same thing on this side. we're going to come up to the thigh area, and we're going to put in some little veins coming up from the thigh area down. Remember, everything is coming from the heart, so you don't want the veins climbing backwards like your heart is in your big toe. Everything shoots out from the center of your body, from your heart. So all these veins are traveling outward like roots. This is a really big vein in your thigh area. So this one's kind of dark, and it sends lots of veins off. None of the veins have to really, or like not all of the veins have to connect. I know in real life they all connect somewhere, but you don't have to see them on the top surface. So these are just kind of where I traditionally put them. You want oxygenation on your little kneecap. So we're going to give a little vein on this side of the knee that branches down across the front and towards the little calf area, or the shin rather. All right, so that's a hand, or a leg. Then we're going to go back to the hand. Those tiny little wrinkles. All right, so on your hand, if you're pulling it away from the heart again, you're going to splinter it off like roots coming down the hand. And if these were too big, you would have, well, of course these are preemie, so they're little babies, but if they were too big, then you would have issues with how realistic they look. So keep your paintbrush nice and small. Again, on the inside of your wrist, if you can see the inside of mine, lots of blue hair, and it goes up into my thumb area and into my palm. So we're going to create that effect on the baby. We're going to have some come up into her palm and up over the soft tissue on the thumb. Maybe a couple up in her finger areas up in here. All right, now we're going to come to her armpit area. Never mind the beeping, that's the oven. We have another baby cooking. Never mind that weird noise. That was Anna's belly. Alright, so that's a hand and a foot on this baby. I'm going to go back to the head on this one because this one's really tiny and it's really pale comparatively speaking. Look how the different color vinyls reflect. So this baby's veins are going to show up a lot brighter. Again, in that same area, we're going to send some down to the temple. And this shows up a lot brighter, so I don't want it as dark as the last one because it'll stick out like a sore thumb. Okay, so I think that is, we'll do the front vein here. I'm going to put this one down this side of it this time. You don't have to do it on the same side every time, it's just whatever. Alright, so I'm going to catch up the rest of these babies through the veins, and then our next step will be mottling.